In 1946, a 63-year-old clerk at a government liquor store passed away in Vancouver. Looking at his official death registration, the space for the informant, the person who stepped forward to claim the body, contains a single typed word: friend. There is no family listed, no next of kin. But 30 years earlier, Francis Blyth Kirby was operating in a very different world. In the autumn of 1916, he was a named officer in MI1C, the British intelligence service that would eventually become MI6. The records show a man who sat at a central node of Allied intelligence during the First World War, only to vanish into total obscurity, leaving no one behind to sign his final papers. To understand how a man drops off the map so completely, we have to trace the exact route he took off the edge. This photograph shows 44 Whitehall Street in Manhattan. During the war, it served as the covert hub for MI1C's Section V. The station was operating in a neutral United States, tasked with hunting down German saboteurs and securing the massive supply lines of Allied munitions flowing out of American ports. This chart maps the station's hierarchy. Under the station chief, Sir William Wiseman, we see Kirby highlighted as the point man for Russian affairs. His job was managing the corrupt Tsarist officials procuring arms in the city. The roster of agents operating in his orbit included Sidney Riley, the arms broker who would later be dubbed the Ace of Spies. The paper trail outlines a highly specialized, fluent Russian speaker managing international assets. Yet 30 years later, he is working a cash register in a Canadian liquor store. Before the war, Kirby lived in Imperial Russia. This postcard shows Rostov-on-Don, where he worked as a British acting vice consul. He was married, raising 2 young children, and spoke the local language fluently. In late 1915, he left his family in England and crossed the Atlantic. He didn't travel as a spy, but as a munitions finance assistant to Brigadier General Wilfred Ellershaw. Then, in June 1916, his superior, General Ellershaw, boarded HMS Hampshire alongside Lord Kitchener. The ship struck a German mine off the Orkney Islands, killing nearly everyone on board, including both Ellershaw and Kitchener. Kirby found himself stranded in New York without a boss, but because he possessed a personal address book filled with Tsarist officials and spoke fluent Russian, the spy masters at MI1C quickly absorbed him into their ranks. He didn't seek out a career in espionage. A catastrophic naval loss severed his professional anchor, and the intelligence apparatus simply picked up the most useful asset left behind. By 1918, his time behind a Manhattan desk abruptly ended. Amidst intense political infighting between British intelligence branches, Kirby was recalled from New York and reassigned to the military. He was dropped into the trenches of northern France as an artillery lieutenant, arriving just in time for Operation Georgette, a massive German spring offensive. On the very first day of the assault, the British artillery positions were completely overrun. Kirby was captured and spent the rest of the war as a prisoner in Germany. It illustrates a cold reality of the conflict. A man could be a vital intelligence officer one month and cannon fodder the next. The war machine prioritized immediate survival on the front lines over specialized expertise. When the war ended, Kirby didn't return home to his wife and children in Cheshire. Instead, shipping records from April 1919 show him crossing America again, in transit, bound for Vladivostok. At that time, Vladivostok was the frozen, chaotic entry port for the Allied intervention in Siberia. It was a collapsing landscape filled with warlords, foreign troops, and fractured military missions. This map traces his path, from a prison camp in Germany to New York, straight across to the Pacific and into the Siberian void. His trail goes cold for 6 years, until 1925, when he surfaces on a passenger manifest in Vancouver, listing his occupation as a grain shipper out of China. Whatever he was doing in Siberia and along the Chinese coast during those undocumented years, it dismantled the life he had built before. The man who sailed to Russia in 1919 was not the same man who eventually washed up in Canada. This document is his 1931 Canadian census ledger. He is living alone in a Vancouver rooming house. But look closely at the column asking for his mother tongue. This Lancashire-born Englishman wrote Russian. The records of his family also stop here. There is no clear trace of what happened to his wife, Kathleen, or his daughter, Joan. They disappear entirely from his timeline, leaving him alone on the page. His isolation wasn't a matter of poor record-keeping. It was the physical result of a career that kept him on the move, crossing oceans and conflict zones, steadily severing his personal ties until there was nothing left to hold on to. Which brings us back to that liquor store in 1946. We can trace the fragments of his existence across 3 continents, from the consular offices of Tsarist Russia to the skyscraper in Manhattan to a prison camp in Germany. We often view early intelligence work through the lens of figures like his colleague, Sidney Riley, the suave, untouchable operator. But Francis Kirby's paper trail tells a much more common story. The shadow war does not exist to elevate individuals. It displaces them, uses their specific talents until circumstances change, and then leaves them behind. Kirby survived the First World War and the Siberian intervention, only to quietly expire on the edge of the Pacific, recorded only by an unnamed friend.